Good afternoon. Today on the Business Spotlight series, I'm joined by Maria Challis, Director of James Kitchens. Good afternoon, Maria.
Good afternoon, Mark. Thank you for inviting me.
Not a problem at all. First of all, Maria, could you tell us a little bit about what you do and for how long you've been doing it?
Right, so this isn't my first business, but this is a business that I took over 4 years ago. So the business is based in West Kirby. We are a kitchen design and supply company. And so we predominantly sell kitchens to the domestics market. And we do the full service. So from the point of view, from consultation, survey, design, order, process, and supply to the end user.
Okay. And how long did you say the business has been?
The business has been going for 51 years, but
51
I took it over 4 years ago.
Right. Absolutely well done. In business, who's the first person that comes to mind when you think about success?
Right. Do you know what? I thought really long and hard about this one. And I've got three, and I will be brief. I won't sort of like try and make it too wordy. So I think the first person that comes to mind has to be my mum. Because my mum had two businesses. So she was a childminder and she also was a hairdresser. And I had to really think about this because at the time you don't think anything of it when it's your parent. And my dad also had his own business as well. So I think I came from a background of where they had businesses, but I didn't really think much of it. But looking back, it obviously was quite influential. And then following on from that, my late husband, we set up a business together probably 20 years ago now, of which we ran for 15 years. And he was hugely driven, and his mind for really just sort of thinking innovatively and doing it better and just being very passionate and challenging every objection at a very young age. So when we started our businesses, back then, I was 26 and my husband was 28. And then more latterly, I would say it's my current partner. He has a very successful business in the same industry as myself. And he actually manufactures as well. And he's been hugely influential, not necessarily to me. He definitely is a support and influence in me. But I would say that he's always been there. I've always known about him. I've always known about his brand. And he set that business up when he started working in the business at 14, but took it to where it is now. So I think there's lots of places you get it. So it's not somebody famous. I think it's always probably people closer to you that really influence you, and you don't always quite know it.
Very good. Lots of thought's gone into that, Maria. I can see that.
Yes.
We fortunately come through that horrible pandemic. What sort of business changes did you have to make within James?
I think for us, we were actually quite lucky, Mark, to be really honest, because we were considered part of the construction industry, bizarrely. And I get that, because there are certain elements, as in house building, that you would consider that would be the case. So there was lots of to and fro as to whether we could actually open. We couldn't obviously be in touch directly with the general public, but we could work behind closed doors. So one of the things that we obviously had to do was take that online. We weren't set up with that before. And it wasn't even something we were considering. However, we now do an awful lot more of online consultations because it works for the client. It's very flexible. So that hybrid working definitely works. So we do have, what that has enabled us to do is be able to give flexibility, and our staff have much more flexibility than they did do before. So I think that is something that has really pushed us forward as far as being able to allow the end user to be more fluid with their life, and how it works for them.
Very interesting. Generally, I think from an e-commerce point of view, people accepted it's kind of advanced by about 5 years during COVID.
Yeah.
One of the positive things that actually came out of it.
Yeah, I think so.
What sort of lessons would you say you've had since you've been a business owner? Always causes a smile, that one.
Yeah, I mean, they are so vast, aren't they? I would say one of the things I would always say is is don't take anything personally. And I think a lot of people would say that, because you get lots of knocks, or you think of them at the time as the most horrendous thing in the world, but actually they're not. And just don't take it personally. Sometimes these things happen. But also another thing is, never underestimate the power of empowering your colleagues. They are what are the beating heart of your business. Never stop ensuring that you develop them, and that you also develop yourself. So I would say, I know that probably sounds sort of like quite an overview of what I've learned, but it's all about the people. It always has been, always will be.
Yeah, recruit people and trust them.
Absolutely.
Empower them to do the job.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. What sort of plans have you got for the next 5 years?
Well, again, I haven't stopped, and it's a really funny thing. We spoke about this only this morning, and what I would say to that is, I thought when I took over a business, it was already established, it was already doing well, and I'd be able to just sort of go at a nice, easy pace and bring in my own ideas. When I got into the business, like, oh no, this isn't going to work for me. And so basically you end up, unpicking it all and then starting again, so it's basically, stripping it back, because the way somebody else worked in a business isn't necessarily the way that you can work it. And I think that was actually quite a shock to me. I thought I'd have a little bit of an easier ride than I actually got, and I didn't. And so first of all, we've just gone at, like a roller coaster speed, and the ups and downs have been as much as it would be as if you had a startup business. But for the future of our business, we've got more displays going in. We are looking to build them on obviously what we've already got. We want to grow by 20% in the next 5 years to take us to where our end result wants to be. Obviously, we weren't expecting COVID, so that did obviously set us back a little bit. And obviously to then bring on more staff. We want to massively work alongside our suppliers that we have already. And we're already doing it with the sustainability side of it, and obviously the eco side. So we want to explore that more. We also want to explore accessible kitchens more. And we want to ensure that client journey that we have with them becomes even more seamless than it already is now. And to ensure that the customer always has the full control in the buying process, and that they don't feel that they are on the back foot, so that we are explaining industry jargon, that we're explaining exactly why kitchens are price pointed maybe the way they are. Education for the client, it has got to be key, and getting that word out there. So more so on our social media, and being more informative, explaining things to people so that we can break that down. We know that our clients are not stupid. They are more savvy than they have ever been, because the internet's an amazing place. They go and do their research, and we have to make sure that we keep up with that, and that we don't keep on thinking we know more than them. Of course, obviously working in our industry, we will always know, because we're at the cutting edge. So we will always have that more of an informed approach. However, don't be misguided to think that your end user won't also go doing their research fully. They will always try and catch you out, not in a bad way, but because they want to feel that they are not being sideswiped or being hoodwinked or any of those things. And I think it's down to us to get a little bit more informed on that side of things, to make that process more of a joint venture, rather than the kitchen company being in control and the customer just having to nod their head and say, okay, then.
So it's very much about that, enhancing that customer experience and giving the customers what they want.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't want them having buyer's remorse. I mean, fortunately, we don't have that. We have a good customer relationship. However, we can always do better. And we just need to make sure that we don't ever get too cocky and think that we've got it all sussed, because somebody will come along and happily tell you you haven't.
And you mentioned the importance of staff, and obviously as part of your growth plans. How do you find the employment in the region, employing people?
Well, I have not had consistent staffing levels in all the time that I've been there. And the trickiest thing I've had to deal with is the fact that the really good people that are out there, and I'm not talking about experienced people, I'm talking about people with integrity, trust, and the honor side of things that are more important to me, that align with who our company is. They could have the most small amount of experience, but they would have to have a good heart and actually understand where we want to try and get to as a company. That's the hardest bit, trying to sort out the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. Agencies, recruitment agencies predominantly don't care. However, I have recently been in touch with some of those that actually have a more ethical nature to them. And so I think it's getting better in the recruitment industry. I don't think there's enough people out there to fill the gap. It's something that I've been constantly watching in my network. I definitely see and read all the articles about recruitment. We've got to be careful that it's not just about the money anymore, that we've got to nurture, again, as I said before. We've got to ensure that it's about working hours. It's about the well-being side of your business. It's also about ensuring that they have other benefits that aren't all just monetary. So for instance, with my staff, we have something called the Juno platform, and it's where we give well-being points to our staff. And they get those. They don't have to earn them. They don't have to do anything. They're gifted from the company to the employee. They can do whatever they want with them. They can roll them over. They can spend them every single month. So they could get a massage. For instance, one of my staff members, she came in very excitedly to me the other day and said, "Look, Maria, I've got a weighted blanket. Thank you so much for the Juno points." She's struggling with sleeping. So she'd heard that the weighted, because she'd read on the site, weighted blanket. So it's perks like that, or benefits like that, that probably will mean more, rather than having some cash that might disappear because once it's in your bank account, you don't always see it. But this is actually something they can spend on themselves. And believe it or not, that's actually really, really important, that they actually do that for themselves, because it means that they're valuing themselves. And they don't, it's not something where they have to rate themselves with it. It's just gifted to them.
Would you say you're unique in this type of approach?
No, I don't think I'm unique at all. I think that it just needs to be spoken about a lot more. And I think a lot more companies need to get on board with benefits like that for employees, because it's actually something that the employee doesn't know that they want or they would like, but when they've got it, it actually means so much more. So for instance, if they rolled their points over and they wanted to take their partner on a weekend away, then they could do that.
Right. Lovely. But very much your starting point is trying to recruit on values and attitudes rather than skill set. Is that fair? Or
I think so. I mean, don't get me wrong, certain job roles have to have a certain skill set, there's without a doubt. However, if I really bought into somebody that didn't have maybe as much experience as another person that had come as a candidate towards me, it would definitely be about how I can interact with them and the rest of the team. I don't do the interview process alone. My whole team's involved. And we do a 3-tiered step approach to interviews, because I don't think I know it all. My staff can see things that I can't. They've got to work with them. We're a very small knit team, and you've only got to have the wrong personalities clash, and it's no one's fault. But if the personalities clash, it's not going to work. So more to me, we're at work more than we're at any place at home with anybody else. You need to consider that massively and understand that it's about the workplace functionality and how they feel within that environment.
So you've clearly shared, starting really, we're talking about empowerment and well-being. Are there any other sort of learnings from being an employer in business that you'd like to share?
I think yes. I mean, we learn every single day. I mean, my staff teach me as much as I teach them about certain situations. One of the biggest things I would say that I've learned is that everybody has to learn at their own speed. And just because it seems like a good idea, you can't automatically just immediately throw it into the mix, because people process information at a different rate. And therefore you have to allow them to catch up with your ideas or anybody else's ideas in order to actually implement it. So learnings are hard and fast sometimes, and it's always hard to try and pinpoint where it is. But bringing your team to a top level is a continuous thing that you have to do, and you have to continuously appreciate that you might need to bring in outside sources to help achieve your end goal. So it could be that it's not just about sales. Of course it's about sales, we all know it's about sales, you know, we need that, but it's those interactions. So it's the interaction between your sales team and the end user, but it's also the interactions between each other, the conflict elements that might appear, the resentment that might appear. So for me, those learning curves are, I don't have all the skill sets, so I'm going to therefore bring in a third party to help bring in that element, to help my staff to see through that, to work through those pain points, because there's pain points everywhere, not just pain points with clients, there's pain points within our own interaction groups. And I think that's probably the biggest learning curve, is that I didn't know it all.
Right.
And I'm quite open to still learning.
Every day is a learning day.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
And final question. I always smile at this one because I just love the question. Do you have any advice for your 18-year-old self?
Be brave.
Be brave.
Be brave. And once you've done it, you've done it. It's never as hard once you do it. And I think I wasn't as brave as I am now. So I think take the opportunity. And I say that, you know, I moved up here, I moved up to the northwest when I was 20. So it was brave, but I didn't do it on my own. So, you know, one could consider that's brave, but I think I wished I'd been braver.
Right. So looking back, bravery.
I think so, because you don't know what to expect. And I would say this about my own son. My son is 20 and my daughter's 22, and my son holds back. So I'm forever encouraging him and saying, look, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
And not that my mum and dad didn't do that. They were just quite happy to let us go and would support us in anything we do. But I wished I'd had someone maybe just give me a little nudge and push me a little bit further forward. I don't think it's held me back necessarily, but I think I could have had more opportunities.
Thank you, Maria. It's been wonderful speaking to you and getting your wisdom and your insight into running a business, a very successful business. So absolutely, thank you for your time today. It's been really enjoyable.
Oh, I've loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.